So there's many elements of this that kind of make you focus on you, you know, and in the focusing of you, that's where it becomes essentially a journey of self. Who am I in this field? In this
Mm.
area of competition, where am I? What do I mean? What can I do? What do I do differently to others?
What's going on, everybody? This is Chris T. I just want to take a second to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Talking with T. I hope you like this episode featuring Ryan Hart. We go into the topic of execution. Just to let you guys know, in a couple of days, I'm going to be having my first Ken guide out on Medify. It's going to consist of 3 parts, okay? There's the beginner's guide, there's the intermediate guide, and then there's going to be the advanced guide. The one that I'll be releasing soon is going to be part 1, the beginner's guide. So if you're just hopping into Street Fighter or you just want to start picking up Ken, it'll be a great guide for you to watch. Please support that, and I appreciate everybody again for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy this episode of Talking with T. Execution, what is it? Why is everyone talking about it? And why are the veterans of the FGC so frustrated and very vocal about this particular topic? You're listening to Talking with T. I'm your host, Chris Tatarian, and joining me in today's episode is going to be the legend, my brother, Ryan Hart, who just so happened to be the very first guest when we released Talking with T. Ryan, it's good to have you, my man. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's great to be back. You know, I know you launched with me as the pilot, and it sort of took off from there, and it's been really good seeing the progress. Yeah, great to be back, man. Fun times ahead.
Well, let's do it. Let's get right into the conversation here by saying that over the past 9 years, many titles have leaned towards accessibility. Do you feel that the competitive community's needs have been overshadowed by the drive to appeal to casual gamers? And what are the long-term implications of this trend for the genre?
I mean, in terms of competitive player needs, yeah, for sure. You know, obviously, if you're looking for the edge using your veteran skill and hardcore technical ability, then if a game comes out that doesn't need a lot of that, then of course you're going to take a hit, right? So,
Yeah.
right out the gate, obviously, there's going to be some changes. The implications mean that, you know, maybe there's more people that are interested in playing fighting games because they see that, oh, I mean, there's an avenue in for me here. Maybe I could get involved, right? There's a window of opportunity, so to speak. So, you know, from that perspective, that would be something I'd say would be a glaring change that would come through. For the competitors, I think, you know, I do see that we are kind of adapting to the situation with each game. You know, we're just taking it as it comes. You know, oh, we have easy combos, or we have like a modern mode, or we have, you know, this way of formatting the buttons so that it's a bit simpler and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe we need the numbers, you know, and I think sometimes it might be easy to not notice how small our network is and think that we just have enough numbers with the few that we have. But from the publisher's perspective, it's not enough, right? They want more eyes on the game, they want more hands on deck, and they want more revenue, right? And so
Yeah.
the only way you're going to do that, if they reach out via like surveys and questionnaires, and the common denominator is that it's too hard, it's too technically demanding, you know, I can't move that fast, or I can't react that quickly, or whatever,
Yeah.
then they're kind of pressured to make it simpler, you know, to kind of dumb it down, so to speak.
Okay,
And
so
that's just kind of where we're at right now. You know,
yeah.
they're trying to cater for an audience that has an interest in playing, but doesn't feel that they can take on the heavy load of being, you know, dexterous in all the ways you need to be, and being technically sound, and learning how to react, you know, at, you know, millisecond speeds, rates, and stuff like that. So
Right.
I think, you know, that's the challenge that the pub devs have, to try and make it welcoming for people approaching from that area.
Right. So this is something that's been very interesting to me, like this particular angle of the conversation. But before I ask that particular question, I want you to do your best to explain what is execution in fighting games for those that don't quite understand why this topic is so widely talked about in recent years, and especially in my timeline over the last week.
Well, execution is predominantly what connects the human to the software, right? You know, it's how you get involved with the characters, how you connect and gel with the technicalities of the character that you're going to use. And it's ultimately how you communicate with the software, because if the movement is forward, down, forward button, that's what the computer's going to understand. That's what the program's going to understand. So
Yeah.
it's how you talk to the machine, right? You talk to the machine, you think of a move, you execute that move through the hands, and the hands deliver that move on the screen, and that has an impact on your opponent. So there's a very smooth flow of interactions there, and seeing everything happen is very addictive, right? It's like me being an 8-year-old at home, switching a light on and being like, oh, well, 8 is too old. I think it
Yeah,
wasn't
maybe
a
like
big
2 or
thing.
3.
Yeah, it wasn't a big thing by that time. But like, sorry, as an 8-year-old playing a game was fascinating. Like seeing a character move as I press a button, that was really fascinating, you know?
Of course.
But yeah, pushing a light on at 2 or whatever, 3, it's like, oh, this is, wow, there's actually a reaction when I do this move. When I move my hand here, this is what happens. And so the fascination is definitely one of the addicting factors. And so then you kind of connect that to the fact that you can use that to outwit someone else. You can have your mind versus another mind, and that's very addictive. But yeah, the execution is essentially the practical side of everything in your mind. It's how you do things physically on a game, right?
Yeah.
And so execution is the difficulty level of whatever you're doing, right? Is it just pressing a button like a light switch, or is there a complex sequence that you need to deliver to get the move out on the screen?
Yeah.
And execution tends to lean towards things being difficult, like it's execution heavy. It requires this demanding input, right? So those things take time to learn.
Yeah.
And having a learning curve is something that's very gratifying when you can deliver that, right? If it's something that you've been working towards and now you know it, right? I remember having it my first job, a paper round job, right? And I was really proud of myself when I finally learned all the streets. Like I knew them off by heart. I knew, okay, I'm going to go there first because it's quicker to go that way on the bike. I can go around the back alley and get to that bit quicker, And so you sort of learn your little route, and yeah, it's quite gratifying to have accomplished that, especially if you accomplish it by yourself. You feel really rewarded, like, yeah, this is my reward. I feel proud of myself for this achievement. And so having something that needs to be studied or needs to be practiced, you've got to kind of rinse and repeat. There's some repetition involved before you get the reward of being good at something.
Correct.
I think it's important that that's part of the process. I think there needs to be some sort of barrier to the highest level of everything that you can do. I know some people think that you shouldn't have to have high demanding execution things, but I'm talking from a perspective from someone who has played games with no execution.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been all the way up to, the very highest, whatever you've seen me do, one-handed EWGFs,
Yeah.
whatever red parry combos. Like I've been in that kind of upper echelons in games when it comes to execution. And if I would compare the two, it's been way more fun developing myself through failure, through practice, through repetition. I can't do it at all. I've watched this other guy do it every single time, but I can do it like 1 in 10. But the day that it changes from 1 in 10 to 3 in 10 is big. It's only 3 in 10, but there's so much joy in that progress. And you don't get any of that when it's just there for you to do. You can just do it and not only you, everyone can do it.
Everyone can do it.
How do you make a difference? How do you express yourself? Because these games are a journey of self-expression.
Of course.
And make no mistake, you might see solo play, you might see team play. Fighting games are a very selfish activity in many areas because it's about you being the best. It's
Correct.
about you winning. 6,000 people enter Evo, one wins. Only one.
Yeah.
So there's many elements of this that kind of make you focus on you, and in the focusing of you, that's where it becomes essentially a journey of self. It's who am I in this field? In this area of competition, where am I? What do I mean? What can I do? What do I do differently to others? How can I be different? And we thrive on challenge, don't we, as humans? We need something that tells us we need to do better in something. We need something that tells us this is the improvement that we're proud of, or, this is how we're being creative in that area. And we kind of, when we find something that we enjoy in that area, we really thrive there. It's like,
Absolutely.
This is what I enjoy to do. And fighting games are no different, right? And this is why people have stuck with fighting games for literally decades. Most of their lives have been centered around some sort of game, And that's not just fighting games, but whatever the genre is,
Yeah.
It's kept people coming back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that execution is the thing that challenges your skill set. It challenges you.
Yeah.
So if you're someone that's not used to being pushed, it might feel tedious. Like, why do I have to do this? This is so annoying,
Yeah.
And especially if there's not enough of a support system, like, that the tutorial gives you what you need, or that there's a community effort, or that there's some sort of YouTube series that you can follow. If you don't feel supported in what's required, then it can be quite boring and very frustrating. And that is definitely where execution can become a bigger hurdle than it should be.
Yeah. Well, I want to stress on a couple of things that you said that I think was perfectly said. When you mentioned your self journey and what you bring to the table, the uniqueness, I think of there's a couple of moments that have been highlighted in the FGC history that really showcase why this moment was unique. And just as a prime example, we could use moment 37 where Daigo parried Justin Super. There is a reason why that moment is what it is. It's the greatest moment in fighting game history, right? It's the moment that caught my attention, that made me want to play Street Fighter at an extremely high level. There's a reason why it erupted the crowd and why people hold that to such a high standard. It's because of how difficult it was for Daigo to do that given in that moment, right? If it was very easy for Daigo to do the parry, I doubt that the whole crowd would have erupted, right? You're not jumping off of your seat for something that's very easy to do, like turning on a light switch, right? You're jumping off of your seat when you can conceptualize what that was, how difficult it was, given the moment that he did it, all the surrounding aspects of it. It's like hitting a game winner in a basketball game, right? I'm using that as an example. Also, Daigo's combo on Momochi, but let's just switch it over to Momochi. You were able to tell who was playing Ken. You were able to tell who was playing Sagat in Street Fighter 4. If the Ken player was hitting 90% of his Kara DPs, 90% of his Kara throws, and was hitting the optimal one frame combos for Ken, you could pretty much guess that it was Momochi or someone like a Michael Tan when he was really popular at that time. I think that execution really brings the self, the artistry of the character, what separates you from the others that play your character. And I feel like that art has been lost over the last, 9 to 10 years with the release of Street Fighter V. And I also wanted to mention this about what you had said regarding difficulty in execution and why the developers need to essentially cater to the casual audience to bring them to play their game more. For me, it's like this. If I am a fan of basketball, and I'm just using basketball as an example because it's an easy example to use. Basketball is not an easy sport to play. Basketball requires an immense amount of execution, an immense amount of like training, practice, your footwork, your how you shoot the shot, the factors of the game like blocking, screening, the technical stuff that we don't know about that they have to study and remember, the memorization of a play before you execute it with 2 seconds left, things of that nature. I don't know how someone could be inspired to get into a field. And then once they see how difficult it is, they're like, well, this is too hard for me. I'm not going to do it. That's never resonated with me. If I was inspired to do something, such as playing Street Fighter, the difficulty is what actually attracted me to the field that I was interested in. And I always go to the saying of anything that comes easy in life isn't worth anything. Everything that has like quality or worth, it's fought for. It takes time and practice and years of training. It's like, why is that lost when it comes to fighting games? Like you could look at basketball. Look how many people try out to be a basketball player or football or soccer. Some of these professional games, why is it that our genre has to be reduced? The magic of our genre has to be reduced in order to appeal to an audience that might pick up the game, might purchase the game, but they're not going to play it after a couple of weeks, or they're not going to be investing their lives as the competitive players are investing. Ultimately, for me, it feels like this hurts the competitive player who's devoting his life to this than it is the casual player who spent $60 on a video game. That's what has always bothered me. Why are you entering something if it's too hard for you and you're just gonna drop out of it? You know what I'm saying? If you really love what you're doing, you see the difficulty as something fun. Anybody that has succeeded in anything that was difficult would agree to that.
The reason that fighting games take a hit when it comes to the approach and people don't like when they realize it's hard is because initially gaming in general was something that you just do when you've got a couple of minutes free. You just quickly play a game of ping pong or whatever you had. And so gaming, fighting games are not seen as something that are actually really difficult to play. It's just seen as a thing you mash buttons on in your lunch break. The regular layman doesn't understand how hard fighting games are. They have no idea because there's zero visual recognition about how difficult what's happening is. You don't know what's going on. If you don't understand what's happening on fighting games and you watch a match, you wouldn't realize how hard Daigo's parry was. If that had happened online with no crowd and no audience, and that was just a random replay on YouTube, no one would have thought anything. But because you heard the screams of everyone in the room. I was there that year. I was in the next room in the bring your own console room.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't in the room when we did the parry. I was practicing for top 8 of Tekken 8, of Tekken Tag. I was in top 8 for Tekken Tag. That's the year I won EVA for Tekken Tag, actually. Yeah,
Wow.
and I was practicing. And I was like, what's going on? What are we hearing? What's that noise, you know? And yeah, people were like, oh my God, did you see that? And you just, as I was walking through the venue, you heard people talking about it. So we knew we'd missed something monumental, but this is what it is. It's people that deliver the message. It wasn't the game that delivered the message for random people that saw that clip.
Yeah.
It's the people in the room that delivered the message that something great just happened. And then it became an article on GameSpot and on every other, publication, every other gaming website. Even games that don't even really talk about fighting games had something about the Daigo parry.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit annoying because we know how great it is and we want to convey that. We want that to be like a thing that everyone, we want to share that moment with the world. But the world only knows what they see humans do because that's the connecting factor. It's that we're all human. We know what someone screaming in excitement means.
Right.
And so how you communicate the execution side is the part that's missing. Because everyone thinks that fighting games is just you press buttons, get a control pad out, mash a few buttons, and then you leave it. And then you go back to your job or whatever other game you're going to play.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the casual flowchart, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's good thing about fighting games is there's multiple ways to enjoy them. You can have a lot of fun just by pressing buttons or whatever, right? So that's also cool. This is fundamentally the reason why fighting games don't get the right limelight in terms of how difficult they are. And, if you tell someone that you play fighting games, they might not see that as like a great skill that you've achieved to be top level on something like that, So there's a gap in understanding, right? If you tell someone you're a professional basketballer that's never played the game, they will still know that is really hard to be good at.
Yes.
They will still understand. If you say I'm a pro footballer, I mean, not everyone, to be fair. I've actually had people say like, nah, you don't have to be that good to be good at sports. I've had people talk like that. So it's not everyone. But fighting games, if you imagine how mainstream sports are, and to imagine that there are still probably millions of people out there that don't give any respect to have the skill that you need to be good at, a good footballer, or a good rugby player, or a good tennis player, or a good cricket player, or a good baseball player, or a good American footballer, or a good basketballer, They don't give credit. They don't give credit to the skill that it takes to work your way up that ladder and get to the top level and then perform in the league. They don't give that credit. So that's traditional sports that have been around for decades, right? Before we were alive, these people were winning tournaments. And fighting games are much newer, an unknown kind of a weird sort of format, like you play on a control pad or a hitbox or a joystick. Like everything's relayed on a digital screen. You don't know what the hell that means. What are these characters doing? Why do they look like that? Like nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
So you start asking all kinds of questions and you don't even arrive at how difficult it is, or that there's psychology, that there's mind games going on. The actual crux of what makes fighting games great doesn't even get touched on. That's the saddest part. When people talk about fighting games, really, like if you have a conversation with casual people and try and bring them in, that side of it is rarely deep dived on, or, it's just, yeah, this is fun. We do this as a group. It's fun. We have tournaments. You can win lots of money, period. You never go into it's actually really deep because there's like heavy mind games going on.
Yeah.
There's a deep battle of wits happening in real time here. And they only have milliseconds to react to convey their wish. You might have an idea of how to outsmart your opponent, but if you're too slow, you can't deliver it in time.
Right.
So it's not just being smart. You've got to be quick and smart. You've got to be quick and smart, but what if they adapt? So now you've got to be quick and smart and creative.
Yeah.
You need all these attributes just to play the game.
Yeah.
So yes, fighting games are hard, but they were always supposed to be hard. Because even without execution, even what I've just said would be impossible for someone who's not able to deal with a demanding task load like that. You're not going to get fighting games to be easy ever. Execution is not the only reason why fighting games are hard. So having modern and having all these other things, it's great because it gets people in the door, doesn't it? It's like, come into our house. We've got like warm, fresh bread baking. Come into the house, And so you're in the door, right? But actually engaging at a high level takes a lot of you. It takes a lot of your intellect. It takes your emotions come into play. If you're having a stressful day, you can't play fighting games because you need calm. Analysis requires calm. Shouts to Itachi.
Yep.
Yeah, you need to be able to relax. If you've got problems in your relationship, or you've had an argument with a work colleague, or there's a deadline coming up that you need to finish an assignment before, you can't play games properly.
No.
Because your mind has a portion of its capacity already allocated to this other important thing in your life. So you need chill, you need relaxation. Can't tell me fighting games are easy. You need all that. You got to have all that emotional control. You need to have your work-life balance, your spiritual balance, your emotional, but everything's got to be centered.
Yeah.
That's crazy just to play the game.
Yeah.
That's wild. So fighting games from the inception are designed to be hard. What makes them great is because they're hard. From
That's
A to
it.
Z,
That's
easily.
it. That's the conversation right there. What makes fighting games great is because they're hard.
They need to be hard for the journey to have value. In life, people don't respect things when they come easily.
Exactly.
That's just a raw truth of reality. Let's do this. Look, we'll take two twin brothers, right?
Yep.
One of them, he wins the lottery. He wins, I don't know, he wins $380 million, right? He just goes into a random store and he wins the big one,
Yep.
right? His brother worked his way up through the corporate ladder, got into an industry and made his millions through hard work and hard graft, grinding years and years and years, project failures, then
sacrifices.
Finally made it. He finally made his millions. Yeah, he's got 400 million or whatever.
Yeah.
If you was to explain that story to people, which person's journey would they respect more?
Of course, the brother, the brother that worked for
worked his way up. Yeah, exactly. When things come easy, people don't have respect for them. Yeah. That's the same in whatever field, it's got to be a journey that you used. Like, I'm not saying that if there's no execution, you don't earn anything, because that's also not true. You still have to work. Right. You still have to outsmart your opponent, right? The tools that you have to outsmart your opponent are just easier to utilize. There's an argument for value there, right? You strip away one difficulty area to give people exposure to the second difficulty area, right? So they get to that bit easier. But I think the main question is it more interesting when the execution is easy and you just get straight to the mind games? Or is it more interesting when you have the execution and the mind games? And for me personally, because I've been playing a long time, I've seen games that are easy to play. There was a really good game that I think Keats was heavily involved in. I think it was called Dive Kick, right?
Yeah.
And that was a really fun game. That was easy. Like the inputs, that was easy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's literally Dive Kick.
It was easy. It was simple. It had interesting characters. It was fun, right? The graphics looked cool. Like, it was a good game.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about when the execution also has a degree of high demand. There's an attractive feature about the quality of a sick layup in basketball. There's something about that where you're like, man, that was some stuff right there. Did you see that? I mean, basketball's something else because like the teamwork, the coordination, like there's so much more in that area when it comes to like respecting skill.
Yeah, but let's just talk like a quarterback, which I think is the hardest position in any sport, is the quarterback in American football.
Okay, yeah, so I don't really know too much about American football.
Yeah,
but if you watch like a footballer, not so much a striker. He's waiting for midfield to set him up. Okay,
right.
But if you watch the setups though. The setups that bring that ball into the striker's feet, those setups are some of the most genius brain work I've ever seen.
Yeah. Because
you have to have eyes everywhere, even in the back of your head. And you're watching where your people are, where their people are. Where the striker's going to, and that sort of coordination of where you're setting him up to be for the finish and stuff like that. Even where the goalkeeper's standing in that moment plays a role. You might not play a certain setup if the goalkeepers happen to be in a certain position. You see what I'm saying? So there's psychological elements in everything. People's positioning on the field is massive.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like I might not try and zone you if you're a bit near, because you're a bit too close. I might get clipped. You might DP from a fireball. Yeah. So positioning, it's not just if the execution's easy. It's like, where is he though? Is he back of the screen? Am I trying to drive rush, give him time to react? No. So there's all kinds of elements to this where, based on not just the execution, but what the situation in the game is. See, and this is actually now introducing a third element to why fighting games are difficult, because we've gone through execution, we've gone through the mind game side of it, but now we're talking about resources and screen management. What's the time on the clock? Where is the guy on the screen? What's the super meter saying? Mm-hmm. Do you have drive rush gauge? Do you have drive gauge? You see what I'm saying? What's the health saying?
100%.
Is he near the corner? Can you get him in the corner? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't make fighting games easy. There's too many things. And this is we're just talking about any situation.
We're just talking about like
100.
Oh yeah, because one of the main things that I talk about whenever I stream or, anytime someone asks me these types of questions, it's the hardest thing is situational awareness. Because let's say you have 6 bars of drive meter, the opponent has 6 bars of drive meter, just using Street Fighter 6 as an example, right? The situation is different if you have 3 bars of super or 1 bar of super. The situation is different if you have the same amount of drive meter, but you have 83% life and they have 67% life. Or if they have 62% life and you have 83% life, but you have 1 less drive bar, but they have 6 bars of drive bar and you have 2 bars of super. And then multiply that, as you said, by 100, depending on where you're at the screen, depending on how many rounds have been won, how many matches are you ahead of your opponent. Decisions all different because of situational awareness. What is the situation telling you? And that is the craziest part about fighting games, where it's like, I have to be ready for absolutely everything within milliseconds. And it's so hard, but it's so gratifying when you're able to achieve that.
So this is a fourth element, communication. Okay, the game is talking to you. The opponent is talking to you, even when they don't realize they're talking to you. They're talking to you. There's subconscious communication happening all the time. It's like a conversation with a person. We might be in a group, 5 of us in a room, and one of the guys says a sentence, and every other guy understood something different.
Yep.
He said the same sentence. We all heard the same words, but based on how he said it, his body language, his eye contact, we all had different messages. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so sometimes the game can be communicated, yes, but we all understand different things. From what happened on the screen, I've got this idea now. But you might see that same scenario and you got a different thing going on. So it's that too. It's the development of how your brain works and how you respond to information that's given to you by the game. And you can't teach a lot of that stuff. A lot of that stuff is just experience, because you know now, okay, there was only 10 seconds left. So, or like, and a really obvious one, I've got this much health, there's 3 seconds left, he's got no overheads, I'm just going to hold down back and take the throws.
Exactly.
So I'm saying, like, yeah, based on experience, you know that he knows there's nothing going for him. And you're just going to take the throws and then you're going to win on timeout. Knowledge is the thing that brings you to that place of understanding. And that knowledge can only sometimes be gained by going through the experience. Sometimes you just won't get taught something like that. That will be the one thing you never saw on a replay, never happened to you before. You're just in a mix now. And then you will learn from experience, from the loss. You'll be like, that's the experience. Experience is the thing you get just after you need it, right?
Yeah.
And so now you've realized, oh my God, like, okay, I have to recognize that next time. Don't press buttons.
Yeah.
He can counter hit me, take my life. The super stops the screen. Now he's got my health. If I'd have just blocked, I'd have been cool. 2 seconds left, take the throw, take the win. So I think a lot of the stuff that challenges people is that they just don't. I can understand. I honestly, like, I'm not just saying that as well. Like, I can understand it must be really annoying for new players that come in and they get really overwhelmed, because I'm sorry, that is really overwhelming. You got to learn all these really hard combos.
Of course.
And it's just to play the game. You got to learn these really hard combos. You got to learn how the guy thinks. You got to learn his character, so you know what he's going to be trying to do on you. You got to understand what everything on the screen means: the meter, the time, the resources, like the spacing. How big is the stage? Where's the corner? Oh, I'm in the corner now. What does that mean? You got to learn all this stuff just to play one match. It's a lot. That's a big ask. So my thing, and this might be a hot take for some of your viewers, right? Okay. But in my opinion, I don't really like the messaging. The messaging that comes from the big corporations, the messaging that comes around everything being user-friendly and accessible. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying I think it should be tweaked.
Well, I think my audience would actually agree with you here. I think a lot of the audience that listens to me agree with a lot of what I have to say. So
Okay, well, we'll find here. We'll see what people have.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, because I do want to, like, what you're getting into right now, I have a question perfectly lined up for it. So go ahead and finish that thought.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Hold that thought, my bro. Hold that thought. The rhetoric that I've become familiar with is that, we've introduced this new mode, whatever game, City of the Wolves, Street Fighter, all the games, all the sick games, the best games, right? There'll be a new mode that helps people to get into either the game itself or actually the whole genre, right? And there'll be something new that's introduced, a new kind of combo system that's simpler to use, a new kind of mechanic that helps you get into the game, so a new mode, all that stuff, right? That's all great. That part is cool, because if you tried a fighting game before and you were like pushed away from it because it was too technically demanding, now you've got something real you can work with. I can do the moves now. This is cool. So that part's great. The bit that needs tweaking is that there's literally no messaging about mind games. There's no messaging about the depth. There's no messaging about how you use the resources you're given.
Yeah.
How do I build this into a strategy? Okay, you tell me that there's 99 seconds on the clock. What does that mean? You tell me that I've got 1 bar or 2 or 3. What does that mean? Like, there should be more that goes into developing players' mind games and helping people understand how you build a strategy. Because how you build a strategy, imagine like you want to learn Street Fighter 6 and you're like, okay, I'm going to watch Chris T stream, I'm going to watch Punk stream, I'm going to watch Kakeru stream, I'm going to watch all these top guys play. You still won't know how to build a strategy. You see what I'm saying? Because remember, you got to build your own. You can't just take someone else's. You got to build your own strategy.
Right.
And so obviously you can start taking ideas from here and there, and that's great. You can watch a player and be like, oh, he made this work. I'm going to try that. But at some point, that stuff needs to become your own. It needs to be from you, because that's how you're going to build your identity, and that's what's going to make you unique on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there needs to be more efforts that go into how you help players develop themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
You know? Catch a fish for someone, they get one meal. Teach them to fish, they get infinite meals. You know? And so we don't have the person that's teaching them to fish.
We're just giving them fish. Yeah. And it's rotten fish too.
And so imagine it. But and so the danger that comes, the danger that's associated with that is you tell people our game's now accessible. It's just for you. It's really good. Look at this. And then you buy it, and then you get absolutely battered on ranked, and now there's no help for you. And you don't know what the supers mean, and you don't know about the mind games, and you don't realize that not only did you get battered, but even if you'd have known that, you'd have still got battered, because that's how deep it is. It's way down the barrel. Like, it goes way, it's deep. The rabbit hole runs deep, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, a bit more support for people in areas like, you know, the game's not about execution. That's like a prerequisite to play the game, but that's not what the game's about.
Right.
It's not even nearly what the game's about. The game is about outsmarting your opponent to get the W.
100%.
So why aren't we using any communication tools around that when it comes to marketing games? Outsmart your opponents like this. It's really fun. It's cool to do this and that. Like, deliver those bars. Talk about how fun it is when you outsmart someone, how cool it feels when you get to hit the fun combo or whatever. But
why is it that it's not being talked about then? Why?
Because the risk to running that is that you're telling people out the gate it's going to take work. If you want to progress in our product, you're going to have to work. Who wants to be told they got to work? Who?
I do. Right? Like, I like that. I like that. I know that if I pick up a piano, it's going to take me time to learn it if I do anything.
So I think it depends on the format of communication, if you ease people in. But you might not be the majority here. Remember, if it's about making money, if you're building a business and you want that business to be lucrative, you want to get the largest demographic that are going to support your product, not the smallest. And I don't think you fit the larger demographic. That idea of, I want to get into it because it's hard and I want to grind and I don't think that is the largest voice in this. I think the largest voice are a group of people that some of them might want to challenge, but I don't think they want to be told they got to sit down and learn 5-1 frames to play around. And so maybe you would like that, maybe I would like that. But I don't think the majority of people that are interested in getting into fighting games and you have to remember, there's a reason they haven't played so far. There's a reason that they're only getting into it now. Yeah. And it's probably partially to do with execution. So if you take that away, that might be better for them. But I'm saying you can also communicate, not that it's hard, but you can communicate that when you actually get used to understanding how someone's mind works, it's really fun. Because it's not a lie. It is. It's really fun to play when you've got kind of like these communication tools. Like, imagine you learn a new language for the first time. Like, you just learned Spanish for 3 years, and now when you visit Spain or any Spanish speaking country, you've got this new power that you can use. You've got this new way to build relationships with people. You know, and that feels really empowering when you're in it. And so when you learn how to play fighting games, it's that as well. You've got a new language to communicate in.
Yeah.
You know? And that's something that's never talked about.
Yeah. Well,
it's so cool, you know?
I think one of the best feelings is when you get to a certain level where I don't speak Japanese, but if Tokido sits down, or Tokido actually speaks English, but if like a certain Japanese player sits down and wants to show me something, this is actually what Xiaohai and I were doing in Street Fighter League the year that we won, was some things Xiaohai can't explain in English, but he would sit down and just tell me to sit down next to him, pull it up in training mode, show me the thing that he's trying to tell me, and I'm going to pick up what he's trying to tell me because I speak the same language as he does when it comes to the game. I can pick up what he's saying.
Yeah, you speak the game language.
It's an incredible feeling. It is an incredible feeling. Yes.
But that's what international competition is. It's players coming together to speak that one language. I don't know half the languages in that room, but I can speak to everyone in the room.
Yes, 100%.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, we come together, and that's why we call it the FGC, like the community, or some people even call it like a family,
Yeah.
because you come together and you align from this, the catalyst of our connection is this language, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it's very powerful stuff, man. But there needs to be a bit more connection from the pub devs to the audience that they want, whatever demographic they're trying to get.
Yeah.
There needs to be more communication about how fun the psychology is, how interesting it is, because that can develop you in life as well, even how you navigate discussion with people. Like a lot of that stuff can be had in fighting games. They push
Absolutely.
back on a certain thing, so you change your way of communicating to get the point across, or you're more patient, or you let them do their thing. Get information from them, understand how they're thinking about a topic before you give your point back.
Yeah.
Fighting games are like that too. Sometimes you have to hold it down. Let me just let him run his set. Let me see what he's on. Let me see what he's trying to deliver now. Where's he going with this? Let me see what he's doing. Let me get the information, collect the data, and then I'll give my response. Dialogue works the same way. So
Yeah.
developing what you know of fighting games helps you in real life. Whether you're going for a job interview, whether you're having a relationship discussion with your partner, whether you're talking with your parents, like a lot of the skills in fighting games are transferable. I'm not just talking about physical stuff. We already know hand-eye coordination, reaction time, situational awareness. Yeah, fighting games are based on trickery, skullduggery. Someone's setting you up. They're doing a certain thing, and they want you to react so they can do their other thing.
Yep.
And so life is like that too. Sometimes a guy walks behind you in a certain way, like I'm at the cash machine. Guy run up on me, like he's on that side, but I know his friends coming on the other side to try and do something. Like setups. Even when people talk to you, they're talking to you to try and get information from you because they want to use that for something else. So you understand you need to navigate the discussion in a different way because this is a setup. And so sometimes, because people like to act like, I don't live in an area like that, or man, this is a lot of this is kind of human nature. People will be very opportunistic when they can be sometimes. And I travel a lot, so sometimes I don't even know where I am. I'm just in an area. I've got to be careful. I've got to be vigilant,
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes a certain person tries to talk to you a certain way, and you can tell by the way that they're discussing with you that they're trying to just collect data. They're trying to collect information, trying to find out what you're like. Is this someone I can take advantage of? Is this someone I can get something from? Is it, you see what I'm saying? And so,
Of course.
yeah, in fighting games, you get to learn a lot of that stuff as well. Like, this guy's setting me up for something. What he's showing me now is not his true intention here. I need to be careful. I need to be aware. So for some people that will resonate with more than others, and that's fine, because in fighting games, not everything's for everyone, and that's cool. But I'm just trying to give you a few examples about where fighting games connect a lot to many scenarios in real life. Many.
Of
Many,
course,
many, many.
I agree.
So-
I've always talked about how like I felt that I grew spiritually and physically as a man through my experiences in the last 15 years with Street Fighter. Like the overall journey of it has matured me, with everything, the flights, the game, the people, the situations that you go through with fame, feedback, criticism from people that you never meet at tournaments. Or somebody that talked about you online, you meet them in person and they shake your hand all nervously. We've all been in those situations, but
yeah, and I'm saying that dynamic is something that the pub devs haven't explored with how they communicate with their audience.
Of course.
Yeah,
and
that's why I think needs to be tweaked and changed that bit.